Hello. So we're just going to be looking at some of the examples I gave you in, or rather, the activity templates that you're going to use for your assignment, particularly the three templates that I have on Study Space, which is car rental records, student records, and you have the is it the shopping sales record as well. We'll go through all of that. I'll just run through as a guidance what to do. Now, remember in the example that I have also available on Study Space, I explained how you should go about your normalizing your data, your tables. So here is a sample table here. You've got customer name, car rented by customers, rental agency, date of rental, customer contact, rental agency city, and there is also price. Now, if you of course, the second part of the question is to write out the data type for each of your normalized table. So as a hint, I said you're expected to have at least three different tables at the end of your normalization activity, which is customer, rental agency, and car rental tables. So basically, what I'm saying to you is if you look at this table here, you've got three pieces of information you can categorize these tables into. You can have customer table, rental agency, and the car rental table. And remember, like in our previous exercise, the example I gave you, which is on study space, you when you break each of these tables down, you must have an ID, a primary key ID for each of them. It's very important, and what I simply mean by that is this. You will notice that on this table, the yellow column there is the ID column. Let me just scroll up so that you see it properly. That's this customer ID column here is the primary key ID. And remember, when I did the example, we started from this and we moved on to this. I created this as a customer ID. Then later on, we progressed. We had a customer table separate, and we had a manufacturer table, and all of them have their ID. So you have a customer ID, you've got a manufacturer table with its manufacturer ID there, and this is what you have as a manufacturer table, and you've got a video game table. So I expect you to do the same thing for your assignment. So if you're using this template, for example, I expect you to break it down into three and do your exercises according to how that example has been laid out. So remember, note here that I use just first names so that you don't have to bother about breaking it down to two different names. You have just single names. You will notice that on the table, Paul here has three different cars that he rented, and you've got Paul again here renting another car. So you if you look at the information here, you'll see that it's the same person. So in simplifying it, you just simply make it. You can simply, but the thing is here, he rented it from a different place, right, and different time and location, but nevertheless it's the same person. So you can have it all at one in the customer table. So you have Paul and you have Peugeot vehicle type here as well. So that's just a hint of what you can do. Then if you have another table that has the rental agency, what closely relates to the rental agency is the city where the rental agency is located. So you have the rental city. So on your table you can have a rental agency. Of course, you will have the rental agency ID, just like how you have customer ID for customer this. Of course, for the customer name, customer ID table, you will have your customer name and you have the customer information here. If you have any other thing that relates to the customer on this table, then you have that there, but there's nothing so far. So what you have here also for the second table will be the rental agency. I'm sorry, yeah, for the customer, the date of the rental, you can afford to have that on your customer table, or you could have a separate table if you want to, just for the dates. But I'll accept it if you still have your date for the cost on the customer table. So let's see. So what I'm saying basically is, you see one, two, uh, three here. I expect you to at least have that in your customer table, and you could have another table that has the rental agency, the city where they stay, that should be fine, because those are the only things that closely relate to the customer, right? I mean, to the rental agency. Then the last one there is the cars rented. So the car, you could have a different table for cars alone. So car rental table could be there. You can name it car, you can name it car rental table. And the thing that closely relates to the rental table would be the price, because this is the price that relates to the the vehicle, that was the car that was rented. So I expect you to do that at the very least. Okay, then for your data type, I expect you to have date. At least you should have date, because you've got date fields here, you've got price, you've got the short text that can take care of this and this, and you should be fine with that. Okay, and customer ID. So the same should apply for your other tables as well. So if, for example, you decide to do the student records, you want to do the student records, for example, remember all of these are available on study space, and you're expected to use them. So for student enrollment record, you have this information there. You have student course, program type, date of admission, student's contact address, lecturer, subject type, lecturer. Right off the bat, you can tell that you've got three pieces of information here that you can break your tables into. You can break it to student, course, and lecturer table as well. So you can have three different tables. And with student, you have the student ID, and the student ID should have the kind of program that the student has uh, enrolled for, and the course the student is doing, because this closely relates to the student. And the date of admission, all of this closely relates to the student. Like I said, just like in the previous one, you can afford to have the date as a separate but I don't think data that has date of admission, but I honestly will be okay with you just having it as just one table. So you've got this table like this, and the student contact address also, of course, it relates to the student, and you can, oh, sorry, let me take that again. I said the student's name, you have the program type, and you've got date of admission. Now the student name and the date of admission is vitally important, and it relates to the student. And you can also have the course. The course can be separate. It can be separate because people will be enrolling for different courses, so you can have a different table that has courses, so that when somebody comes in as a student, you have a student register that is separate from the course and from the lecturer. The lecturer, here you have the lecturers and their hours, so you can have a table for just the lecturers that covers this. Okay, so remember, you're supposed to remove duplicated, the details here have to be atomic. So any ones that are repeated here, for example, you've got Caroline is having, she's doing childcare and ICT, and you've got another Caroline that does biochemistry and psychology. So but when you break this down, I expect you to have different roles and IDs for these two Carolines. Now these two Carolines are two different people, because you can tell they're two different people from their addresses. Okay, and the programs they've enrolled in. Of course, you can have the same person, I mean, the two different people doing the same course, because people have similar names. Okay, so the same thing with data types, I mean, sorry, your data dictionary. You make sure that you put in all of these values. This is for time, and this can, short text is fine, dates and time is fine for data types, short text, and so on and so forth. I think with this should be clear enough for you to be able to complete your assignment. Okay, all the best.